Buckle up, because for the first time ever, I'll be cleaning 2 different abandoned Ford Mustangs, and you aren't going to believe how dirty they are. The first is a 94 Mustang that was recovered from an estate sale after sitting for the last 12 years, and the mess inside is tragic. The second Mustang, however, is a 69, and it sat for the last 20 years inside a barn collecting dust and getting pooped on. Get comfy, guys, because the messes inside these cars is unsettling, but the transformations they make are mind-blowing and something you do not want to miss. Alright guys, well, not something I've ever had to do before in my life, but this detail is going to have to start with getting this window cleaned and dried, and then using some tuck tape, which, if you didn't know, is typically used for the sealing of joints and seams of insulation and sheathing materials like poly that goes over an insulated wall, which thankfully I even had some tape like this because my only other option was a heavy-duty Gorilla Tape. But anyways, I'll get this taped up quick so I can pressure wash the car, but before I do, I'm going to vacuum up all the clumps of dirt and leaves on the windshield cowl here so I don't end up blasting it around the studio, and then I'll also do the same thing in the engine bay to make it a little easier on myself later on. Okay, so far so good, guys. My tape job on the window held up and the inside is still dry, but while I work here, you'll notice I'm making sure to really spray the crevices out well, as I know from experience that when a vehicle sits outside for many years, especially near or under a tree like this one did, the crevices are going to be absolutely full of dirt and other debris, and sure enough, there's piles and piles of gunk hiding in the crevices here that would have otherwise been missed. Starting on the door jambs, and for whatever reason the driver's side door doesn't want to stay open, so no, I don't usually recommend trying this one-handed, though thankfully the passenger side one does stay open, except that it only opens from the inside. So while the car is in pretty good shape, there's definitely a few things that need to be fixed, like the transmission, which currently only has the reverse gear working. Now as I get the car washed here, I can see that there's a number of areas where the clear coat is failing, so I'll of course try to be as careful as I can around those areas to not make them any worse. Alright, well, it's time to tackle the dirty engine bay on this Mustang, and that starts with some degreaser, which is going to do most of the work for me here. Once that's been liberally sprayed everywhere, I'll go around with a variety of brushes, including a couple of my wheel brushes and a boar's hair detail brush, to really get into the tight crevices. Then once the agitating is done, I'll just rinse everything off with the garden hose, blow most of the water off with my leaf blower, and finish with a quick towel dry. Though one really important thing to note here is that you never want to let the degreaser dry on any surface, as it does have the potential to stain things. Okay, moving inside the car now, and after removing the front seats, I can get a better look at what's hiding underneath. Looks like a mess of wires on the passenger side and more broken glass and leaves on the driver's. Next, I'll quickly remove the couple of larger items, some of which are completely encased in what I'm hoping is dog hair. But as I get to work on emptying out the glove box, I thought it was a good time for a little PSA. Whenever you're working on a vehicle that isn't yours, always proceed with caution when rummaging around in storage bins and things like that, because you just never know what might be hiding in there, and it's always a good idea to wear gloves too. Now as I suck up the majority of the glass and leaves in the car here, I'm using my shop vac instead of the central vac that I have installed in the studio here. That way I'll avoid any clogs in the lines running in the walls, and the shop vac is honestly just the better unit to be using to suck up larger material like this. Starting on the back seat here, which was absolutely covered in what I'm assuming is dog hair, unless there was some sort of a wild animal that was living in here at one point. But I did want to point out that I'm again starting with the shop vac here to get all the glass and leaves, but because my central vac actually has a fair bit more suction than the shop vac, I'll finish the job with that, and after getting the big stuff sucked up, it's the hair that remains, which the shop vac unfortunately can't do a whole lot with. Okay, for the rest of the hair stuck in the back seat here, I'll of course grab my lily brush, which will effortlessly pull the trapped hairs out. You can find these on my website over at detailgeekautocare.com, where they make great gifts for people with pets, and I've got you guys covered because worldwide shipping is available. Alright, well after getting all the cobwebs sucked off the dash and center console, I went ahead and removed the back seat cushion because I knew there'd be pieces of glass under there too, but I didn't expect to find a giant mouse nest because I really hadn't seen evidence of mice elsewhere in the car, but I guess it's not surprising the mice were in here at one point too. Okay, well it's time to once again put my best-selling carpet cleaner to the test on this 30-year-old upholstery to see if I can make it look new again. Though knowing the interior quality of these older vehicles and how well my carpet cleaner works, I'd say I've got a pretty good shot. You can of course find the carpet cleaner on my website at detailgeekautocare.com, along with all the other chemical products that I use and my brushes and towels too. But if you've ever wondered how well they work, well, I think these videos should definitively prove to you that if it can handle the worst disaster cars out there, then it can handle whatever mess you've got in your vehicle with ease, so consider giving the site a look. Now as I continue working my way around this beautiful red interior, I just have to say that I really wish manufacturers still made vehicle interiors like this. Everything nowadays is black, and I for one am absolutely sick of it. I miss the character that these older vehicles had, so I for one will be totally on board to lose a little bit of the technology in the newer vehicles for a little bit more personalization again. Alright, well, despite knowing that the new owner fully intends to fix up the Mustang a bit and repaint it since it needs some bodywork too, I'm going ahead and claying the paint using my quick detailer as lubricant, which will pick up all the contaminants that are bonded to it, and it's almost hard to believe just how dirty this paint was. Okay, second last step here before calling the Mustang done is to clean all the glass, though with it being a two-door car and having a window smashed out, this step is a little bit lighter than normal today. Okay guys, well, after sitting in a barn for 20 years, I'm not taking any chances here, so I'm going ahead and using some of my all-purpose cleaner as a pre-soak before I hit the paint with the pressure washer. But for the eagle-eyed viewers out there, you might have noticed that the car lost a giant chunk of paint on the hood between when it was in the barn to when it got to my studio. So that means I also have to be really careful with the pressure washer as the paint is brittle and I don't want to blast any more of it off. Now by this point in pressure washing the car, it's still a little hard to tell what shape the paint is actually in because, as you know, everything looks better when it's wet, so I'll have a better idea a little later on once I've washed and dried the car. Starting on the hood where most of the bird droppings are, and based on what I've seen so far, the APC is working pretty good as a pre-soak agent, so I didn't think I needed to step it up to the degreaser, but after seeing how stuck on the bird poop is, I probably could have stepped it up. Though barring that, it just means it'll take a little bit longer with the pressure washer to be sure I've got it all blasted off, while also being really careful to not take any more paint off the hood. After seeing the hood earlier, I decided to bust out the degreaser for this vinyl top since it was covered in bird poop too, but if you're wondering why I'm doing the top of the car last, well, that's simply because I wanted to preserve all the other shots for you guys, so if I wasn't making this video right now, I definitely would have started up here since top down is the smartest way to detail the exterior. Now, while this is typically a slightly less important step in a detail, when a vehicle has sat for 20 years, that means there's dirt everywhere. And I mean everywhere. So using my boar's hair detail brush, I'll use it around every crack and crevice around the car's exterior to make sure I've gotten every speck of caked on dirt off the car. Okay, now that I've got the Mustang washed and dried, I'm going to turn my attention to the engine bay where the 302 small block V8 resides, and as you can see, it's pretty dirty under here. So the first step before I get started with degreaser is to get the air filter covered up so I avoid any water getting down into the carb, and then like usual, I'll use a variety of brushes to get things cleaned up, though I do want to stress that this is simply just a quick detail here to make things look presentable, as I'd have to be dismantling things and cleaning them outside the car if perfectly clean was the goal. 55 years of grease and grime isn't going to come off with a 5-second scrub, and since the engine hasn't run for so long and won't for a while yet, I'll just use the pressure washer for a quick rinse. Next up is to start work on the interior, so while I've still got the pressure washer out and the floor is wet, I'll get the floor mat sprayed off, but first I need to vacuum up all the rat poison here, as I certainly don't want this sprinkled around the studio floor. And once that's done, I'll use my carpet cleaner and my drill brush to loosen up the decades worth of dirt and hopefully get this floor mat looking brand new again. Alright, well after having recently done a 1967 Mustang, I know that the bolts for the seats have to be accessed from underneath the car instead of inside like modern vehicles, so thankfully the car has a bit of ground clearance and I've got enough room to squeeze underneath to get the 4 rubber plugs from each side removed, and then get a 1/2-inch socket in there to get the seats unbolted. And yes, I had to be very careful to not drop anything here as I was working over top the drain pit, and I certainly didn't feel like going fishing through mud to retrieve anything. Okay, with the seats out of the car now, I've got a little better idea of what I'm dealing with here, but like always, it's easier to clean things outside of the car, so I'll quickly get all the seat belts unbolted and removed, and then the door sill plates removed as well. Now once I had the back seat removed, I unfortunately found a giant mouse nest and piles of mouse turds, which isn't too surprising after seeing the rat poison earlier. Last step before vacuuming is to get the trunk cleaned out, and thankfully this went a lot smoother than the last Mustang did, as I had to crawl in through the car to unbolt the latch mechanism and found live mice while doing so. Now if you haven't seen that video yet, I highly recommend watching it, as it was one of the craziest details that I've ever done. Of course, no detail like this would be complete without dead mice, so here's the rotted out bodies of 3 baby mice that their mother likely abandoned many years ago. But it wasn't just dead mice I found under the seat here. I also uncovered a crusty old watch, so I'll put that aside to give back to the owner just in case it means something to him. Getting to work on the carpet now, which after vacuuming looks to be in pretty good shape, and while you'll usually hear me say that the carpet in older vehicles is always nice and plush and good quality, well that's not always the case, as the carpet in this Mustang is nice and thick, yes, but it's kind of a weird material and not very soft. But that being said, I still think I'll have it looking close to brand new today. Okay, for this filthy back seat, I'll of course be using my leather cleaner and the steamer today, and even though this is a vinyl seat, my leather cleaner will still do a great job of getting it restored to look new again. Now that I've gotten the sill plates clean, I'll start on the seat belts, which I know I've seen tons of comments about over the years, wondering whether I clean these or not. And of course the answer is yes. Steam and my all-purpose cleaner will easily get the decades worth of dirt and grime loosened up so it can be wiped away. Alright, well it's time to turn my attention to the paint on this Mustang, so with some of my finishing polish and a microfiber cutting pad, I'll get to work polishing up this old and heavily oxidized paint. But I do want to caution you guys that this is simply being done in an effort to give the paint a little bit of shine again, and after taking a look at the results, I'd say it's going to look a heck of a lot better when I'm done. Okay, starting on the hood now, and you'll see pretty quick that this car desperately needs to be repainted, which the owner fully intends on doing once he's gotten all the rust and bodywork taken care of. So like I mentioned a minute ago, I'm only doing this to try to make the car look as good as possible for Brendan. You can see that the paint is in really rough shape here, and despite my best efforts, it's only going to look so good. But when you see the before and after on the hood here, I think you'll see that this just had to be done today. Another necessary step today is getting all the chrome polished up, and for that I'm using my correcting compound, as it's got a little bit more bite than the finishing polish, and in about a minute the chrome is looking almost brand new again. Okay guys, the second last step here is to dress the vinyl top here, and normally I'd highlight the UV protection that 303 offers, but in this case that ship has kind of sailed, though it's still going to revive it and make it look incredible.